I remember a time when I was in college that my mother called me up and she asked me to share with her some of the classes I was taking that semester. And I remember I was taking 18 hours that semester, and every class had the word Hispanic, Mexican, or Spanish in it. And my mother was silent for a little while after I explained to her my course schedule, and then she responded, "Very good. I sent you to college to learn how to be a Mexican." I sometimes wonder today if my mother was still alive, would she say, "I came to CBS, I came back to college to learn how to be a Christian." The irony of what my mother said, of her comment, was that I actually wanted to go to school. I wanted to go to school to get away from my past. And I wanted to go to school because I wanted to get away from the set future or the set path that a lot of people would expect from a young Latina growing up on the east side of Houston. But what I found was my past constantly facing me in every direction that I turned. And I saw as I beat the odds, the more I noticed how I was standing there alone. And I didn't like being the exception to the rule. I wanted to move forward. I didn't want the past, but I didn't want to leave my family and my community behind. I felt that doing something was not an option for me. It had become a passion in my heart, and I knew I was being called to do something about it. I decided to go on and pursue a master's in public policy with a background in nonprofit management at the University of Minnesota. And I wanted to become equipped and to be prepared because I knew to change the situation that we were in, it had to be a group effort. We needed training, we needed leadership, and I wanted to be prepared for that. I remember coming home and sharing with one of my aunts about me leaving to go to grad school. And everybody looked really excited, and she looks at me and she says, I happen to be the first person to go to college and graduate to college, and obviously the first person to go on to grad school. And she looks at me and she says, well, this is exciting because more school means more money. So when you graduate, you're gonna come back home, you're gonna make some money, and you're gonna give us some, right? And I looked to her and I tried to explain, I said, well, my dream, my passion is to work for the Hispanic community, so I really don't think that I'm gonna be making a lot of money. And again, I get that silence. She looks at me, she looks to the left of her, she looks to the right, and she stares back at me and she says, we are the Hispanic community. You need to go out there, make some money, bring it back home to us. So, needless to say, they weren't really seeing my passion or my vision, which made a change in heart closer to my graduation date all the more shocking and miraculous to me. As I neared my graduation, I got the opportunity to have the job that, since my sophomore year, I said, this is where I'm gonna work. I said, I'm gonna work at NCLR, I'm gonna do this, you're gonna hire me. And 3 months before that, I had that job, and I was being offered the opportunity to be part of a new project where we would be building capacity among Latino organizations on college campuses and leadership development. At the same time that I was getting this opportunity and my plan seemed to be working out perfectly, I felt a strong urging and a strong calling to come back home to Houston. And that was kind of unnerving for me because I've always worked on 5-year plans, and that was not part of my 5-year plan. So I called my aunt up and I said, I feel this strong God calling me back home, but I feel like I'm going to give up an opportunity to do really important things for our community, and I just don't know what to do. And at this time, I have a family of approximately 30 people, and the majority of them had become saved, had accepted Christ while I was in grad school. My aunt prayed with me, and at the end of our prayer, she said, Lisa, you can go to DC and you do it your way, and you'll do very good things for our community. So you come home and you do it God's way, and you'll do revolutionary things. I was very stunned, because this was the same aunt 2 years before that was not what she would have said had it not been that God was working through her heart. So I decided to come back home. And I was very ready and willing to set out with all my plans to make a difference in the Hispanic community. But nothing was happening. I got a job in an organization that's very dear to my heart, the Girl Scouts, and I was very passionate about it, but I knew it wasn't my calling. I remember one night, I was sitting on my couch with a box of Girl Scout cookies in my hand, eating Girl Scout cookies, and I said, God, I said, I don't mean to question your sovereign will here, but I don't see any revolutions happening right here. I said, I'm eating Girl Scout cookies. I could be in DC doing something. I don't see your plan here. And as I prayed later on that night, the Lord made it very clear to me, said, for what I have called you to do, you don't have the preparation you need. It's like, I don't want any more leaders. I said, I want Christian leaders. I want you to learn how to be a Christian leader. And I woke up the next morning and I said, what does that mean, Christian leader? I was like, I'm Christian. I said, I'm ready. I said, what does that mean? So I did what anybody from my generation would do. I Googled it. I Googled Houston Christian leadership and the College of Biblical Studies came up. And on the website it said, developing multi-ethnic Christian leaders. I said, well, they develop multi-ethnic Christian leaders. God wants a multi-ethnic Christian leader. I guess I'll go there. So I enrolled in the Christian leadership program at the College of Biblical Studies. And from the moment I stepped in there, I knew that I was about to be transformed. I actually called another one of my aunts. I have a lot of aunts, so this is another one of my aunts. And I told her, I said, I don't think I'll recognize myself at the end of this program. Because what happens in secular education these days is that you are inundated with a lot of ideas. You know a lot of things, but very few times are you called to believe any of them. And less than that are you called to actually act on what you say you believe. And that's not the case at the College of Biblical Studies. Every day, every minute, you are challenged by the Word of God, and it challenges you to transform yourself, to become more Christ-like every single day. It is not about knowing things. It's about becoming something. And I was just transformed. It's still difficult for me to find the words to say what was going on in me while I was having my education learning here at the College of Biblical Studies. At the time, I didn't see what was happening or what was going on with my passion or that dream or where the Hispanic community fit into it. The Lord actually gave me 3 things. He gave me the problem, He showed me the real problem, then He showed me the solution, and then He showed me how I was going to be part of it. At the time, I took a mission trip to Cuba. I was very excited about going on this mission trip with my church. I was the only Hispanic in that mission, going on that mission trip. And while we were switching flights to Mexico to Cuba, there's a group of 20 very excited, passionate people for the Lord. And on the same flight, there was approximately the same amount of college-age Latino students from California sneaking into Cuba to learn another worldview, not a biblical worldview. And at that time, I realized it hit me like a ton of bricks that I was so worried about our community being left behind socioeconomically, that I didn't realize that our community was being left behind spiritually. That the most promising leaders that we had in our community were in search of something to believe in so much that they would sneak into another country because there wasn't anybody equipped to train them and to reach them with the truth. I knew they were searching for the truth because they were just like me. I knew each one of them. I could see me in each one of their faces. So I came back filled with just tons of emotions and praying. It's like, Lord, I didn't understand. Now I understand. Now what? At the same time, I had an aunt of mine that continually asked me, she said, I need you to help me to learn how the computer. I need you to help me to learn how to use the computer. Keeps breaking down. I knew at the College of Biblical Studies we had a Center for Hispanic Ministry that offered Bible certificates, offered Bible training, but they also offered computers, ESL, GED, and I said, look, I can't teach you, but I know a place where you can learn. I said, it's affordable, it's in Spanish, it's on weeknights, it's on weekends, you have no excuses. It's like, you need to go there. She walked out of her first class and I was there and I looked at her. She was crying and she was smiling. There were tears of joy and she said, I feel that God can still use me, after she walked out of that first class. When I saw that, I understood what the solution was. I understood that God was telling me something was going on in this ministry and you need to be a part of it. I could see that CBS had taken something that was maybe not popular, maybe was not financially sound, but they chose to make an investment in our community because not making it was not an option. Not reaching the fastest growing minority in our country was not an option. We needed to reach them for Christ. We needed to reach them for the kingdom. I prayed about it and I didn't know what I was going to do. I said, you go in there and you volunteer. Whatever they tell you to do, I don't care if it's stuffing envelopes or making copies, you go there. I got there and I said, here I am. They said, well, what do you do? I said, well, this is what I do now. This is my background. I said, okay, I left. I thought, I felt good. I said, I'll come in here. I'll, volunteer 10 hours, 15 hours a week, and, I'll do my duty. A couple of days later, John Fosdick gives me a call. And I thought the whole world had gone nuts. And a couple of other later, Dr. Boyd gives me a call, and he wants to have lunch with me. And being a CBS student, having the president of CBS call you wanting to have lunch with you, it's kind of like when you see those people in the Olympics and they get a call from the president and saying, congratulations. That's how I felt. I was stunned that Dr. Boyd wanted to have lunch with me, and it was at that lunch that he offered me the opportunity to come as the director of the Center for Hispanic Ministries at CBS. And I just thought, I'm sure they are going to pray about it and come back and say, we're sorry. We don't know what happened, but we prayed about it and that we need to retract that. And I was praying about it and I said, Lord, you need to tell me something here because I do not feel like I'm prepared to do this. And I prayed about it and I picked up my devotional and it said, who are you to tell the master workman how to use his tools? And he said, I've picked you because when I do what I want to do through you, nobody's going to question that it was me. Everybody's going to know that it was me, not you, not anybody else. And what I've learned at the Center for Hispanic Ministry is that every barrier, every impossible, every statistic, God just breaks it down and he just makes it happen. And he's showing me every single day, he's like, do you understand that the change that's going to happen through this community is here? You thought you gave up the opportunity to build leaders, Hispanic leaders. Like, I'm giving you the opportunity to build the next generation of Hispanic Christian leaders that are going to change this city, this state, this country. And you're going to hear it shouted from believers and unbelievers alike. Look at what God is doing in the Hispanic community. And it was such a humbling experience to have God say that I could be part of that. Sometimes we see God leading us in a certain directions, and it wasn't part of our plan. Maybe some of you came tonight and somebody invited you, you didn't really know why you're here, and it seems like all coincidental. Maybe you Googled it and you just here. But with God, really, there is no accidents. If you're here, it's because God has called each and every one of you here to hear our message, to hear what CBS is about, and to give you the opportunity to join with us on this incredible, amazing journey that God has for us to just transform our community for Him. So you can hear people, believers and non-believers alike, say, look at what God is doing for us. Thank you.